The coffee had gone cold in my hands by the time I realized what I was looking at on Noah's laptop screen. We were sitting in our usual corner booth at the Grinding Stone, the cafe where we'd planned our entire future over the past 3 years. Every Tuesday and Thursday evening, same booth, same dreams. Tonight was supposed to be another routine planning session for Axiom Architecture, the firm we were going to launch together in 6 weeks. But the design on Noah's screen, the cantilevered roof with that specific curve, the integration of the solar array into the facade, the proportions I'd labored over for months, wasn't routine at all. "Pretty innovative, right?" Noah said, tapping the screen with one finger. "This came to me last week during that inspiration surge I told you about. I think this could define our signature style when we launch." The words felt like they were coming from underwater, muffled and distorted. That design hadn't come to Noah last week. It had come to me 14 months ago during a 3-day marathon session in my home office. The design existed in exactly one place, my private portfolio on my encrypted cloud drive. The portfolio I'd never shared with anyone, not even Noah. It was my masterwork, the project I'd been refining and perfecting, the one I planned to use as the centerpiece of our first major pitch. "When exactly did you design this?" I asked, setting down my mug carefully, watching the surface of the liquid settle into stillness. "Tuesday of last week. You know how it is when the creative flow hits? Pulled an all-nighter, couldn't stop until it was complete." Noah smiled, that easy, genuine smile that had first made me think we could actually be friends when we'd been randomly assigned as roommates freshman year at Carnegie Mellon. "The whole thing just poured out of me. Sometimes the universe just delivers, you know?" Last Tuesday. I'd been in Denver visiting my parents, helping my dad with some medical appointments, following his recent surgery. And Noah had been watching my apartment, feeding my cat Winston, with complete access to my home office and my computer. The computer where I kept backups of everything, including files I thought were secure. "It's really exceptional work," I managed to say, my voice sounding normal to my own ears despite the churning in my stomach. "Thanks, brother." Noah reached across the table and squeezed my shoulder. "This is exactly why we're going to dominate together. Our combined vision is going to change the landscape. 6 more weeks and we're free from the corporate grind." I nodded and steered the conversation towards safer topics, the lease we'd signed for office space, the equipment we still needed to purchase, the list of potential clients we'd been cultivating. But my mind was already 3 steps ahead, already planning, already questioning everything I thought I knew about my best friend. The conversation continued for another hour, Noah talking excitedly about marketing strategies and client acquisition approaches while I made appropriate sounds of agreement. But I wasn't really there anymore. Part of me was already home, already planning how to verify what I suspected. When we finally left the cafe, Noah gave me one of those quick, brotherly hugs that had become our standard goodbye. "Same time Thursday?" she asked. "Wouldn't miss it," I said, and watched her walk to her car, still carrying that laptop with my stolen design displayed on it. That night, I sat in my apartment with Winston curled up beside me, and I went through my files with the methodical precision I usually reserved for structural load calculations. I checked metadata on every file, cross-referenced creation and modification dates, examined access logs on my cloud storage. What I found made my chest tighten until breathing felt difficult. Noah hadn't just taken one design. My entire portfolio had been accessed. 17 projects ranging from residential concepts to commercial complexes. The files had been opened, copied to an external device, then the access logs deleted. But Noah had been careless with my automated backup system, the one that kept redundant logs in a separate partition. The timestamps were all there, creating an irrefutable timeline of theft. Every single file had been accessed during the 36 hours I'd been in Denver, systematically, comprehensively, deliberately. I sat back in my desk chair, staring at the evidence on my screen, and felt the foundation of my world shifting beneath me. Noah and I had met on move-in day of freshman year, two nervous 18-year-olds hauling boxes up 3 flights of stairs in the August heat. We'd clicked immediately. Same taste in music, same dedication to our craft, same dreams of building something meaningful. We'd studied together through every all-nighter, celebrated every success, mourned every failure. When my mother was diagnosed with cancer during junior year, Noah had covered my share of rent for 4 months without my asking, without making me feel like charity. Just appeared one day with a check and said, "Pay me back when you can or don't. Family takes care of family." When Noah's father had his heart attack the following year, I'd flown to Phoenix and spent 18 hours in a hospital waiting room, bringing coffee and being present in the way that mattered. We weren't just friends, we were family, chosen and earned through years of shared experience and mutual support. We'd been each other's emergency contacts, each other's references for jobs and apartments, each other's constant support through breakups and disappointments and victories. And now I was looking at evidence that Noah had been systematically stealing from me. The betrayal sat in my throat like broken glass. I couldn't swallow it down, couldn't cough it up, couldn't do anything except feel it cutting me from the inside. I could have called immediately, could have confronted everything right then, torn apart our friendship in a single, explosive conversation. But something held me back. Maybe shock, maybe denial, maybe some small part of me still hoping for an explanation that would make this make sense. Or maybe it was something else. Something colder and more calculating that I didn't want to examine too closely. Some part of me that understood confrontation without preparation was just chaos, and chaos wouldn't get me what I needed. Instead, I spent the next week watching, not obviously. We still had our Tuesday and Thursday meetings, still texted throughout the day about random observations and inside jokes. But I was paying attention now, looking for patterns I'd been too trusting to notice before. They were everywhere once I knew to look. The way Noah would ask me seemingly casual questions about my design philosophy over coffee, then show up a week later with work that incorporated my exact methodologies. "I've been thinking about what you said about thermal mass distribution," she'd say, then present drawings that used techniques I'd spent months developing. The time Noah had borrowed my external hard drive just to transfer some large files because my internet is being terrible, and returned it 3 hours later with clear evidence of unauthorized access that I dismissed at the time as a glitch. The sketches in Noah's notebook that used compositional techniques I developed myself, techniques that weren't part of standard architectural curriculum or common practice. This wasn't new. This had been happening for months, maybe longer. I'd just been too blind to see it, too trusting to question it. "You've been quiet lately," Noah observed one evening. We were at Noah's apartment, supposedly reviewing our investor pitch materials, but I'd barely contributed. The space was familiar. I'd helped Noah paint these walls 2 years ago, had assembled half the furniture. "Everything okay with you?" I looked up from my laptop. Noah was watching me with apparent concern, head tilted slightly in that way that usually signaled genuine caring. But now I couldn't tell what was real anymore. Had any of it been real? "Just preoccupied," I said. "Work stuff." "Hendrik still grinding you down?" Noah shook her head sympathetically. "God, I cannot wait until we're out of there. 6 weeks until we're running our own show, making our own decisions. It's going to be incredible, Alex. We're going to build something that matters." 6 weeks until I went into business with someone who'd been stealing from me. 6 weeks until I legally tied my professional future to a person I could no longer trust. 6 weeks until I potentially lost everything. "Yeah," I said, "incredible." That night, lying in bed, unable to sleep, I made my decision. I wasn't going to confront Noah directly, not yet, because confrontation would lead to denial, to excuses, to gaslighting. Noah would tell me I was mistaken, that great minds think alike, that in the collaborative world of architecture, ideas existed in a shared space. She'd say we'd discussed these concepts over coffee months ago, that I'd forgotten, that I was being paranoid or territorial or jealous. Noah would make me doubt my own evidence, question my own memory, wonder if maybe I was being crazy. No. If I was going to do this right, I needed more than just evidence of theft. I needed to understand the full scope of what was happening. I needed leverage, so absolute that there could be no talking, no explaining, no way out. I needed to know exactly what I was dealing with before I made any moves. I started my investigation the next morning. First, I secured everything, changed every password to complex strings Noah couldn't guess, even with our shared history, moved my entire portfolio to a new, encrypted system with 2-factor authentication, installed monitoring software on my home computer that would alert me to any unauthorized access, attempts, and log every detail. Then I did something that felt both necessary and deeply wrong. I installed a keylogger on the laptop I'd loaned Noah months ago, the one Noah still used regularly when working from coffee shops. It felt like a violation, like crossing a line I'd never imagined crossing. But then again, Noah had violated my trust first, had crossed that line without hesitation. The data started flowing in almost immediately. Noah was thorough, I had to admit that. This wasn't opportunistic theft, it was systematic and planned. My keylogger revealed access to cloud drives belonging to 3 other architects in our network, people we'd met at conferences and connected with online through architecture forums. Marcus Chen, who specialized in sustainable residential design. Sarah Okonkwo, known for innovative commercial facades. David Park, whose work with adaptive reuse was getting industry recognition. Noah had an entire folder labeled reference material that was essentially a curated collection of other people's work, organized by project type, by technique, by aesthetic approach. It was a systematic theft operation masquerading as a research collection, but the discovery that changed everything came 2 weeks into my surveillance. Noah had a meeting I didn't know about with Gerald Keating. Gerald Keating was the investor we were supposed to pitch to together in 3 weeks, a commercial real estate developer with serious capital and a reputation for backing innovative architectural firms. Landing Keating's investment would set us up for years, give us the financial foundation to build something real and sustainable. We'd been preparing for this pitch for 6 months, refining our approach, perfecting our presentation. According to the calendar sync I was now monitoring, Noah had a private meeting with Keating scheduled for the following Thursday. At Laurent's, an upscale steakhouse downtown, no mention of bringing me along, no mention in any of our conversations or text exchanges. I sat in my office at Hendricks & Associates, staring at that calendar entry, and felt the final pieces click into place. This wasn't just theft, this was a calculated takeover. Noah had been building a solo portfolio using my work, my creativity, my years of effort. The meeting with Keating wasn't about our joint venture. It was about Noah launching independently, using my designs as the foundation. The betrayal was total and complete. And it had been planned for months, maybe longer. I should have felt angry. Part of me was a cold, hard fury building in my chest, but another part felt something different, something sharper. I'd spent my entire career being the good person, following the rules, trusting people, assuming the best. And where had it gotten me? On the verge of being discarded and erased, my work stolen, and my future destroyed. Noah thought I was weak, thought I'd never figure it out, or that even if I did, I'd be too conflict-averse to act. Too invested in our friendship to cause waves, too nice to fight back. Noah was wrong. I had a friend from law school named Rachel Chen who'd specialized in intellectual property law. We kept in touch over the years, mostly through occasional coffee meetings and holiday cards. She was a partner now at a major firm downtown, handling high-stakes IP cases. I called her that afternoon from my car, parked in a corner of the Hendricks lot, where no one would overhear. "Alex Morrison," she said warmly when she answered. "This is a pleasant surprise. How are you?" "I've been better, actually. I need legal advice, Rachel, and this isn't a hypothetical scenario." Her tone shifted immediately to professional. "What's going on?" "Hypothetically speaking," I said, though we both knew it wasn't hypothetical at all. "If someone stole my architectural designs and was planning to present them as their own work to secure investment funding, what would my options be?" Rachel was quiet for a moment. I could hear her thinking, processing. "How hypothetical is this scenario, Alex? Be honest with me." "Not even a little bit hypothetical." "Shit." Another pause. "Okay, first things first. Do you have documentation, timestamps on your original files, metadata proving creation dates, anything that establishes you as the creator?" "I have everything. Creation dates, modification logs, access records, showing when the files were stolen. It's comprehensive." "Good, that's crucial." "Second question, have they presented the work publicly yet, or are they planning to?" "Planning to. They have a meeting with a potential investor next week to present the stolen work." "Then you need to move before they present it publicly. Once it's out there, you can still pursue legal action, but the damage to your reputation and career is already done. The key is stopping it before it becomes public knowledge." "What if I wanted to do more than just stop them?" I asked, carefully. "What if I wanted to ensure they face real consequences? Legal, professional, comprehensive consequences?" "Define more." "Make sure this never happens to anyone else." "Make sure the professional community knows what happened." "Make sure there are real penalties." Rachel took a breath. "Then we're talking about copyright infringement, potentially theft of trade secrets, if you can prove they intended to profit from your work. Depending on the scope, we could be looking at civil damages, injunctions, even criminal fraud charges. But Alex..." She paused. "This is someone you know personally, isn't it?" My best friend, my business partner, the person I've been planning my entire professional future with for 3 years. Jesus Christ. I heard her moving, probably closing her office door. Okay, listen carefully. Here's what you need to do. Document absolutely everything. Every file, every conversation, every piece of evidence. Don't let on that you know. Don't confront them yet. And before they make any public move with your work, file for copyright registration on everything you've created. Get it time-stamped and officially registered with the Copyright Office. How long does that take? You can do expedited registration, usually processed within a week if you pay the rush fee. Once you have those registrations, they're ironclad proof of your authorship. Then when your friend tries to present your work as theirs, you'll have grounds for both civil and criminal action. How bad could the consequences be for them? Career-ending, potentially. If you can prove deliberate theft with intent to profit from stolen intellectual property, we're talking injunctions, preventing them from practicing architecture, financial damages that could be substantial, possibly criminal fraud, charges depending on how the prosecutor views it. They would likely never work in the field again. The architecture world is small enough that this kind of thing follows you forever. No reputable firm would hire them. No client would trust them. The weight of what she was describing settled over me. This wasn't just about stopping Noah. This was about destroying everything Noah had built. You still there? Rachel asked. Yeah, just processing. Look, I know this is heavy. Take some time to think about it. But if you want to pursue this, we need to move quickly. I can recommend a specialist in architectural IP if you want someone who handles this specific type of case regularly. Let me start with the copyright registrations. I'll do that today. Good. And Alex, I'm sorry this is happening. Betrayal by a friend is worse than betrayal by an enemy. I thanked her and spent the rest of the day filing copyright registrations for every single design in my portfolio. Every sketch, every rendering, every technical drawing, every conceptual study. I didn't backdate anything. I didn't need to. The file metadata proved I'd created everything months or years before Noah had accessed it. I paid for expedited processing on everything. The total cost was nearly $2,000, but it was worth every penny. The next Thursday, I called in sick to work and followed Noah to the meeting with Keating. I know exactly how that sounds. I know how it looks, stalking my best friend like some paranoid investigator. But I needed to see it with my own eyes, needed to watch the betrayal happen in real time, needed to remove any remaining doubt that might make me hesitate when the time came to act. Laurent's was the kind of restaurant where the wine list required a sommelier and the waiters wore actual tuxedos. Lunch for two probably cost what I made in a week at Hendrick's. I positioned myself at the bar, angled, so I could see Noah's table in the mirror without being easily spotted. I ordered a whiskey I didn't drink and watched. Noah arrived 15 minutes early, carrying a leather portfolio that I recognized, the one I'd given as a birthday present 2 years ago. Noah had loved it, said it was the nicest thing anyone had ever given her. Now she was using it to carry my stolen work to present as her own. Noah ordered a cocktail and checked her phone repeatedly, radiating nervous energy. I could read the body language from across the room. This meeting mattered enormously. When Keating arrived, Noah stood and shook his hand with that confident smile, the one that said everything was under control. Keating was in his early 60s, silver-haired and impeccably dressed, carrying the kind of natural authority that comes from decades of success. They settled into conversation, and I watched Noah open the portfolio, spreading out renderings and technical drawings across the table. My renderings, my drawings, my work, my years of late nights and obsessive refinement. Keating's expression shifted from polite interest to genuine engagement. He leaned forward, asked questions I couldn't hear, pulled out his phone to photograph some of the designs. Noah sat back with visible satisfaction, the body language of someone who believed they'd just closed a deal. They were both smiling now, Keating nodding appreciatively as Noah pointed to different elements of the designs. They talked for nearly 2 hours. I nursed my whiskey and watched the entire performance. Watched Noah lie with my work, build a future on my stolen creativity. When the check came, Keating picked it up without hesitation. The sign of someone who was investing, who saw value. When they stood to leave, they shook hands with the kind of warmth that signaled mutual respect and future partnership. Keating clapped Noah on the shoulder as they walked toward the exit, the universal gesture of approval, of money about to change hands. Noah left that restaurant believing the future was secured, believing the plan had worked perfectly. I stayed at the bar for another 30 minutes, nursing my untouched whiskey, letting what I'd witnessed settle into absolute certainty. There was no doubt now, no ambiguity. Noah had deliberately, systematically betrayed me. Then I went home and prepared my countermove. At 9 the next morning, I sent an email to Gerald Keating. I'd found his contact information easily enough. He wasn't hiding, didn't need to. Subject line: regarding your meeting with Noah Ashford. The message was brief and professional. Mr. Keating, my name is Alex Morrison. I'm Noah Ashford's business partner and the actual creator of the architectural designs presented to you yesterday. I have comprehensive documentation proving authorship, including file metadata, creation timestamps, and copyright registrations. I am prepared to pursue legal action against anyone who uses these designs commercially without my explicit permission. I thought you should be aware of this situation before entering into any formal agreements. I'm available to discuss this matter at your earliest convenience. I attached three documents, time-stamped files of my original designs, the metadata showing creation dates that predated Noah's access by months or years, and my copyright registration confirmations showing my name as the sole author. Then I waited. Keating called at 11:40. His voice was measured, professional. Mr. Morrison, this is Gerald Keating. I received your email. Thank you for responding so quickly, Mr. Keating. These are extremely serious allegations you're making. I have extremely serious evidence to support them. I'd like to review that evidence personally, all of it. Can you meet this afternoon, say 2 o'clock at my office? I'll be there. We met at 2 p.m. in his office, a glass-enclosed space on the 42nd floor, with panoramic city views that made my architectural heart ache with appreciation. The space was beautifully designed. Someone who understood how light and space and materials work together had created this environment. Keating gestured to a chair across from his massive desk. "Show me everything," he said. I brought everything. My laptop with original files, backup logs showing exactly when and how Noah had accessed them, the keylogger data documenting the systematic theft, screenshots of the reference material folder containing stolen work from multiple sources. I walked him through it methodically, piece by piece, building an irrefutable case. Keating spent over an hour examining every piece of evidence, his expression growing progressively darker. He pulled up designs on his phone from yesterday's meeting, compared them side by side with my original files. The timestamps were damning. Mine predated Noah's copies by months or even years in some cases. Finally, he sat back in his leather chair and looked at me directly. His eyes were sharp, assessing. "I've been developing real estate for 32 years, he said slowly. I've encountered fraud, embezzlement, kickbacks, every kind of corruption you can imagine. People lying about construction costs, contractors using substandard materials, partners stealing from partners, but this level of systematic theft from a supposed best friend, this is particularly egregious. This shows a level of calculated betrayal that's honestly shocking. Noah believed I'd never find out, or that even if I did, I wouldn't do anything about it. Are you planning to pursue legal action? I'm still deciding the scope of what I want to pursue. Keating nodded slowly, thoughtfully. What do you want from this situation, Alex? Be honest with me. It was the question I'd been asking myself for weeks. What did I actually want? Justice felt abstract, hard to define. Revenge felt petty beneath me. Getting my friendship back was impossible. That friendship had died the moment Noah had copied the first file. But ensuring this never happened again, ensuring Noah faced real consequences, ensuring other people didn't become victims, that felt meaningful, that felt necessary. I want Noah to understand the full weight of what was done, I said carefully. I want there to be consequences significant enough to be a genuine deterrent. And I want to ensure this doesn't happen to other people. I found evidence that Noah has been stealing from at least 3 other architects in our network. This is a pattern, not an isolated incident. I can help facilitate that. Keating pulled out his phone, scrolled through his calendar. Noah and I were scheduled to sign a letter of intent tomorrow afternoon, a preliminary agreement for a $2 million investment in what I believed was a partnership between you both with potential for additional funding based on project success. Let me guess my designs were a significant factor in your interest. They were the primary factor. The work is exceptional, innovative, sustainable, beautiful. Exactly the kind of forward-thinking design I want to invest in. The secondary factor was Noah's description of having a partner with complementary technical skills, you. The pitch was that Noah handled creative vision while you managed technical execution and engineering integration. Noah was planning to cut me out entirely. That's increasingly apparent? Keating was quiet for a moment, thinking. Here's my proposal. We let Noah believe everything is proceeding as planned. Let the anticipation build right up to the signing tomorrow. Then, in my office, in front of my legal team and witnesses, we present all the evidence. We make the confrontation formal, documented, and absolutely undeniable. Why would you invest your time and energy in that approach? Because I despise being deceived. I've built my reputation on honesty and straight dealing. If someone is willing to lie to me in the initial pitch, they'll certainly lie when real money is on the table. And because if Noah is willing to systematically steal from a best friend, from someone who trusted them completely, I'd inevitably become a target eventually. Better to end this now. He extended his hand across the desk. Also, your designs are genuinely exceptional, Alex. If you're interested in a legitimate partnership built on honesty and mutual respect, I'd very much like to discuss it. I shook his hand. His grip was firm, confident. Let's handle Noah first. The next 24 hours existed in a strange state of surreal normalcy. I maintained our regular routine, responded to Noah's texts about mundane things, confirmed our Thursday coffee meeting, acted like everything was fine. Noah was energized, practically glowing with secret excitement about the Keating meeting. She kept making optimistic comments about how close we were to making it all happen, how our lives were about to transform. She had no idea how right she was. Thursday evening, Noah suggested we celebrate. Celebrate what? I asked, maintaining my facade of ignorance. Just everything coming together. 3 years of planning and sacrifice, you know? We're right on the edge of something incredible. I can feel it. We ended up at Murphy's Tavern, the bar where we'd celebrated getting into architecture school, graduating, landing our first real jobs. The space was saturated with memories, with history, with years of friendship that Noah was destroying with every lie. We sat at our usual table near the window, the one where we'd sketched our first business plan on cocktail napkins. You ever think about how wild this is? Noah said, 3 beers deep into the evening. Her cheeks were flushed, her eyes bright with alcohol and excitement. 2 random people assigned as roommates by some housing algorithm, and now we're about to build an empire together. The universe has a weird sense of humor. Pure chance, I said, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. Best chance of my life. Noah raised her glass. To partnership, to brotherhood, to building something that actually matters in this world. I touched my glass. To hers, the sound hollow and final. To getting exactly what we deserve. We drank, and I watched Noah smile, completely unaware that tomorrow everything would collapse. Friday morning arrived with crystalline autumn clarity, the kind of light that makes you believe in transformation and new possibilities. I dressed in my best suit, the charcoal Tom Ford I'd been saving for significant occasions. I wanted to look successful, composed, untouchable. I wanted Noah to see exactly what she was losing. Noah texted me at 8:15, meeting with Keating this afternoon to sign preliminary agreement. This is really happening. Wish me luck. I responded, you won't need it. I arrived at Keating's office at 1:30, 90 minutes before the scheduled meeting. His legal team was already assembled, 3 lawyers and a paralegal, along with Keating's business manager. They'd prepared a comprehensive evidence presentation, a detailed timeline of theft, side-by-side file comparisons, showing the stolen work, testimony, documenting the misrepresentation. Patricia Reeves, Keating's senior counsel, walked me through what would happen. She was in her early 50s with iron-grey hair and the kind of sharp intelligence that came from 23 years practicing intellectual property law. We'll let Noah get comfortable first, she explained. Let her think this is a normal meeting, then we'll present the evidence systematically. The goal is to make this absolutely undeniable, with no room for spin or excuses. Are you prepared for how Noah will react? I don't know how she'll react. She'll likely try to appeal to your friendship, to your shared history. She'll make you feel like you're the one being unreasonable. Are you prepared for that? I thought about watching Noah present my work to Keating about the months of systematic theft. Yes, I'm prepared. Good, because once we start this process, there's no possibility of reversal or reconciliation. This will end your friendship permanently. The friendship ended when Noah started stealing from me. Tomorrow is just making it official. Keating joined us at 1:45. You sure about this, Alex? Last chance to change your mind. I thought about it one final time, really examined my choice. I'm completely certain. Noah arrived at exactly 2 o'clock, still riding that wave of false confidence. She wore a navy suit I'd helped select for job interviews 3 years earlier, when we were both starting out at Hendrix. She'd asked my opinion on everything back then: which suit, which shoes, how to style her hair. I'd helped her prepare for the interview, had celebrated with her when she got the offer. Now she was using that same suit to steal my future. She shook Keating's hand warmly, nodded politely to the lawyers, then noticed me sitting in the corner. For just a fraction of a second, I saw confusion flicker across her face. Then the professional smile returned. "Alex, Mr. Keating didn't mention you'd be joining us." "Last-minute addition," I said evenly. "Please sit down, Noah." Keating's tone was professionally neutral, giving nothing away. "We have several matters to address before we discuss the letter of intent." Noah sat in the chair across from Keating's desk, and I watched her begin to register the room's atmosphere. Too many lawyers, too formal. Something was fundamentally wrong. Her smile started to waver at the edges. Keating nodded to Patricia, who opened her laptop and turned the screen toward Noah. "Ms. Ashford, can you confirm these are the designs you presented to Mr. Keating at your meeting on Tuesday?" Noah leaned forward, examining the screen. I saw her throat work as she swallowed. "Yes, those are my designs." "You personally created these?" "Yes, I did." "And when did you create them?" "Over the past several months. Some of them took longer to develop than others." Patricia pulled up a different window displaying detailed file metadata. These files show original creation dates ranging from 14 to 26 months ago. However, they also show they were copied from another source exactly 3 weeks and 2 days ago. Can you explain that discrepancy? The color was draining from Noah's face. She glanced at me, then back at Patricia. "I'm not sure I understand what you're asking." "I'm asking whether you created these designs from scratch, developing the concepts and executing the work yourself, or whether you copied them from someone else's files and are now claiming authorship." "I created them." But the confidence had evaporated completely from Noah's voice. Patricia pulled up another screen, this one showing my original files side by side with Noah's copies. The timestamps were irrefutable, damning. Mine predated Noah's by months or even years in every single case. "Miss Ashford, these files originated on Alex Morrison's personal computer. They were accessed remotely from your IP address while Mr. Morrison was traveling to Denver to help his father with medical appointments. They were then copied to your cloud storage and presented to Mr. Keating as original work you had created." The silence in the room was absolute. I could hear Noah breathing, quick and shallow. Her eyes found mine across the table. I saw panic there and calculation, the wheels already turning about how to spin this situation, how to explain it away. "Alex, come on," Noah said, trying for that familiar brotherly tone we'd used for years. "This is clearly some kind of misunderstanding. We work together all the time. We share ideas constantly. We collaborate." "We've never shared my private portfolio," I said quietly. "The files you stole were on an encrypted drive I never gave you access to. You took them without permission while you were supposed to be watching my apartment and feeding my cat." "Took them?" Jesus, that's such a harsh word. "We're partners. Everything we create is collaborative by nature. We've always shared everything." "Then why did you have a solo meeting with Mr. Keating? Why were you planning to launch your own firm using exclusively my designs? Why does your business plan list you as sole founder with no mention of me?" The room went absolutely silent again. Noah looked around at the lawyers, at Keating, back to me. I could see the moment she understood how comprehensively she'd been caught, how thoroughly I documented everything. "Let me explain the full situation," Noah started, her voice taking on a pleading quality I'd never heard before. "We're beyond explanations," Keating said firmly. "Mr. Morrison has filed copyright registrations on all of these designs. He has comprehensive documentation proving original authorship, and he has evidence that you systematically accessed and stole his work with clear intent to profit from it." Patricia slid a folder across the polished conference table toward Noah. "This is a cease and desist order. You are prohibited from using any of Mr. Morrison's designs, from claiming authorship of his work, and from representing yourself as the creator of these projects. Violation will result in immediate legal action, including both civil and criminal charges." Noah opened the folder with visibly shaking hands, scanning the legal documents. Her face had gone completely pale. "This is insane. Alex, we've been best friends for 10 years. We're family." "Exactly," I said, and I could hear how cold my voice sounded. 10 years of friendship, and you stole from me anyway. You looked me in the eye every Tuesday and Thursday while planning to cut me out and steal my future. I was going to include you. Once I secured Keating's investment, I was absolutely planning to bring you in as a partner. "Exclude me?" I finished. "I've seen your private business plan, Noah, the one on your secure cloud drive, the one that lists you as sole founder with full ownership, the one where I don't exist at all, the one where my role is completely erased." She stared at me, and I watched. The moment she realized there was no charm, no explanation, no appeal to our shared history that would work. I'd documented everything. I'd outmaneuvered her completely. I'd beaten her at a game she hadn't even known we were playing. "What do you want from me?" she asked finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "I want you to sign that cease and desist. I want you to acknowledge, in writing, in front of these witnesses, that you stole my work, and I want you to withdraw completely from any business dealings involving my designs." "And then what? We just pretend none of this ever happened. We go back to being friends." "No," I said clearly. "Then we're finished. Permanently and completely. There's no going back from this, Noah. You killed our friendship when you decided my work was yours to take." Noah looked at Keating desperately, searching for any lifeline. "What about the investment? The $2 million?" "The investment was predicated on Mr. Morrison's work, the actual creator of the designs I found compelling," Keating said, his expression cold and final. "You, Ms. Ashford, are no longer under consideration for any partnership with my firm. In fact, I'll be informing my network about what happened here. I can't prevent you from practicing architecture, but I can certainly make sure other investors know to be careful." I watched Noah sign the cease and desist, her hand shaking so badly the signature was barely legible. Watched her formally acknowledge the theft in front of legal witnesses. Watched her understand that the shortcut she'd taken had cost her absolutely everything. The investment, the business, our friendship, her professional reputation, her future. When she finished, she stood up, slowly clutching the folder. "I hope this makes you feel better," she said to me, her voice bitter and broken. "It doesn't," I replied honestly. "But I'm not going to let you destroy my career while I stand by and do nothing. You didn't just stop me, Alex, you destroyed me. You could have just talked to me, confronted me privately, given me a chance to make this right. But instead, you orchestrated this public humiliation. You had months to make it right. You chose to keep stealing instead. She looked at me for a long moment, her eyes filled with tears and anger, and something else I couldn't quite identify. Then she turned and walked out, leaving the conference room door open behind her. I heard her footsteps fade down the hallway, heard the elevator chime, heard the final sound of doors closing. The silence that followed felt heavy, oppressive. "That was well executed," Patricia said, closing her laptop. "Clean documentation, no room for dispute or appeal. If she tries anything, we have everything we need." But I felt no sense of victory, just a hollow, aching emptiness where my best friend used to be. Keating walked me to the elevator after his legal team dispersed. "You holding up okay, Alex?" "Honestly, I don't know." Betrayal by a friend cuts deeper than betrayal by an enemy. Enemies you expect to attack you, that's their nature. Friends, he shook his head. For whatever it's worth, you handled this with considerably more grace than most people would have managed. Doesn't feel particularly graceful. Grace isn't about feelings, it's about actions, about choosing integrity even when it's painful. The elevator arrived and he held the door. "Take the weekend, process everything, clear your head. Then Monday, if you're still interested, let's discuss building something real. Your designs deserve to be realized, Alex. They deserve to exist in the world." I rode down 42 floors, watching the city compress and expand in the elevator's glass walls. My phone buzzed, a text from Noah. "You've destroyed everything I worked for. 10 years of friendship meant nothing to you. I hope it was worth it." I deleted it without responding. There was nothing to say. Noah had made her choices. Now she was living with the consequences. Over the following weeks, I learned the full scope of what I'd set in motion. Noah had already been telling people about the upcoming Keating partnership. She'd made promises to potential employees, had started recruiting team members, had told her parents she was about to launch her own firm. When the deal collapsed spectacularly, people naturally asked questions, and when they asked questions, the truth emerged. Word spread through our professional network with shocking speed. Architecture is a surprisingly small world, and gossip travels at the speed of fiber optics. Noah Ashford, who stole her best friend's designs. Noah Ashford, who committed fraud. Noah Ashford, who fundamentally couldn't be trusted. She reached out 4 times over those weeks, twice by text, once through email, once by appearing at my apartment building's entrance and asking the doorman to call me. I declined to engage each time. There was genuinely nothing left to say. She'd made her choices, established her values, and now she was living with the natural consequences. Marcus Chen, one of the architects whose work I'd found in Noah's reference material folder, called me 3 weeks after the confrontation. "Alex Morrison, this is Marcus Chen. I heard about what happened with Noah Ashford." Word gets around. It does. And I wanted to thank you for exposing her. She did something similar to me last year, took credit for sustainable design concepts I'd developed, presented them at a conference as her own work. I suspected, but couldn't prove it. Your documentation showed I was right. I'm sorry that happened to you. I'm just glad someone finally stopped her. Who knows how many other people she's done this to? That conversation haunted me. How many others? How long had this been going on? What would have happened if I hadn't discovered the theft when I did? Meanwhile, Keating and I began preliminary partnership discussions. He wanted to fund an architectural firm with me as creative director, bringing in a business operations manager he'd worked with successfully for years, a woman named Jennifer Park who had an MBA from Wharton and 15 years of experience in commercial development. "I want to show you something," Keating said during one of our planning meetings in his office. He pulled up development plans for a mixed-use complex in Portland. "I've had 4 different firms pitch me on this project over the past 6 months. All of them showed me variations on the same uninspired glass box aesthetic, generic, safe, boring. Then I saw your work. This represents actual vision, actual innovation. This is architecture that matters." He was referencing the design Noah had presented first, the one I'd created over months of late nights and obsessive refinement, the one I'd protected by filing copyright registration. "I want you to lead this project," Keating continued. "Full creative control, your timeline, your vision. The design budget is $12 million for the initial phase." It was the kind of opportunity that defined careers, the kind of break most architects spend their entire lives waiting for. Exactly what I'd dreamed of achieving. And it was mine because I'd protected my work, because I'd refused to be victimized, because I'd fought back. But that night, alone in my apartment with Winston purring beside me on the couch, I couldn't shake a profound sadness that sat in my chest like a physical weight. I'd won. I'd achieved justice. I'd protected my future and probably saved other people from being victimized. But I'd lost my best friend in the process. And even though Noah had absolutely deserved everything that happened, even though the betrayal was complete and inexcusable, part of me mourned what we'd had. I missed the person who'd stayed awake with me for 72 hours studying for our structures final, both of us delirious with exhaustion and coffee. The person who'd flown to Phoenix when my father had his accident, who'd sat with me in that hospital waiting room making terrible jokes to keep my spirits up. The person who'd believed in our shared dream with the same intensity I had, or at least who I thought had believed in it. That person probably never actually existed, or maybe they had existed once, and somewhere along the way, ambition and jealousy and fear had twisted them into someone else entirely. Someone who could look me directly in the eyes and steal from me without hesitation or remorse. A month after the confrontation in Keating's office, I encountered Jennifer Park at a coffee shop near my office. Not Jennifer Park, the business manager. This was a different Jennifer, a junior designer who'd worked with both Noah and me on various projects over the years at industry events. "Alex," she said carefully, approaching my table with obvious hesitation, "I heard about what happened with Noah." "News travels." "It does." She fidgeted with her coffee cup. "I wanted to tell you I'm genuinely glad you stood up for yourself and exposed what she was doing. Noah did something similar to me last year, took credit for my work on the Henderson office complex, presented my conceptual designs as her own in client meetings, systematically marginalized my contributions." I stared at her, feeling pieces click into place. "Noah stole from you too?" "Not exactly stole the files like she did with you, but definitely appropriated credit and ideas. Presented my work as her own, made it seem like I was just assisting with her vision, when really the core concepts were mine." She shrugged, but I could see genuine pain beneath the casual gesture. I let it happen because I was afraid fighting back would damage my career, that making waves would get me blacklisted. Watching you hold Noah accountable, seeing you actually fight back, it helped me understand I should have spoken up, that staying silent just enabled her to keep doing it to other people. After Jennifer left, I sat there thinking about what she'd revealed. This hadn't been an isolated incident with Noah. It was a pattern, a systematic approach, a fundamental way of operating in the world. How many other people had she exploited over the years? How many careers had she built her reputation on? How many young designers had she victimized who didn't have the resources or documentation to fight back? And how long would it have continued if I hadn't discovered the theft and stopped it? That evening, sitting at my desk with the city lights spread out below my window, I made another decision. I called Rachel, my lawyer friend. I want to file a formal complaint with the State Architectural Licensing Board, I told her. Copyright infringement, professional misconduct, systematic fraud, whatever charges apply. Alex, you've already achieved your primary objectives, Rachel said carefully. The cease and desist is in place and filed publicly. You have the Keating partnership. Noah's reputation in the industry is destroyed. Everyone knows what happened. Why escalate further? Why not just move forward? Because it's not just about protecting myself anymore. I've learned Noah has been doing this to multiple people over several years, and if I don't create an official record, if I don't make this formal with actual regulatory consequences, she'll just relocate to another city in a year or two and victimize someone else, maybe someone without the resources to fight back, maybe someone who doesn't have copyright registrations or access to good legal advice. Rachel was quiet for a long moment. I could hear her breathing, thinking, "Okay, I understand your reasoning, but you need to understand what you're committing to. This will become extremely unpleasant and drawn out. Noah will hire aggressive attorneys and fight back hard. He'll drag through hearings and reviews for months, possibly over a year. Every detail will be examined. It'll be exhausting and emotionally draining." I understand. It still needs to happen. All right, I'll prepare the complaint documents. But Alex, once we file this, there's truly no going back. The licensing board process is public record. This will follow both of you for your entire careers. I know. File it. The complaint was filed the following week. The State Architectural Licensing Board opened a formal investigation into Noah's professional conduct. Noah retained a high-powered attorney from a major firm and denied all allegations initially, claiming I was vindictive and making false accusations. But the evidence was overwhelming and irrefutable. File timestamps, witness testimony, documentation from multiple independent sources, the cease and desist already on record. The hearing process was absolutely brutal, just as Rachel had warned. It stretched over 8 months with multiple sessions where both sides presented evidence and testimony. Noah's legal team tried every angle, painted me as jealous and vindictive, suggested I was willing to destroy a friendship over professional competition, implied I was fabricating evidence to eliminate a rival. They brought in character witnesses who testified about Noah's passion for architecture, her dedication to the profession, her collaborative and generous spirit. Former professors praised her creativity. Colleagues spoke about her mentorship of younger designers. Clients described positive experiences working with her. But then our side presented the actual evidence, methodically and comprehensively. The stolen files with their damning metadata showing clear chains of custody. the keylogger data demonstrating systematic unauthorized access, Jennifer Park's testimony about her own experiences with Noah's credit appropriation, Marcus Chen's testimony about similar incidents, two other designers who came forward with comparable stories of marginalization and idea theft. The pattern was undeniable. This wasn't a one-time mistake or misunderstanding. This was systematic professional misconduct spanning years. The board's final decision took 7 weeks after the final hearing. When it arrived, it was comprehensive and absolutely damning. 12 pages of findings, analysis, and conclusions. Noah Ashford was suspended from practicing architecture for 3 full years. Her actions were formally classified as severe professional misconduct involving systematic intellectual property theft and fraudulent misrepresentation with intent to profit. She was required to personally contact every client, every colleague, every business partner she'd worked with over the past 5 years and formally disclose the suspension and its specific causes. Additionally, the board ordered her to pay restitution for the estimated value of the stolen work, a figure that came to $78,000 based on standard architectural fee structures. It was professional annihilation, not a temporary setback, permanent career death. No legitimate firm would hire her after that disclosure. No client would trust her with their projects. Even after the 3-year suspension concluded, the shadow of this judgment would follow her indefinitely. The architecture world is small, and memory is long. I received the news via email from Rachel while sitting in my office at Morrison & Associates, the firm I was now building with Keating's backing, my name on the door and the letterhead, my designs being realized, my future secure. I read the board's decision 3 times and I felt nothing. No triumph, no satisfaction, no vindication, just a dull awareness that it was finally, completely, irrevocably over. Noah sent one final message that evening. Email, not text, formal and cold in a way that felt like reading words from a complete stranger. You've achieved your objective, Alex. You've systematically destroyed my career, my reputation, everything I worked toward for over a decade. I hope it helps you sleep at night. I made mistakes. I acknowledge that fully now. But the punishment you've orchestrated through the legal system is so far beyond anything I deserved. You didn't want justice. You wanted complete and total annihilation. You achieved it. Congratulations on your victory. I hope it was worth destroying someone who loved you like family. I read it 4 times, then archived it without crafting a response. What could I possibly say? That I was sorry I wasn't? That she deserved it? That felt cruel, even if it was true. Was Noah right? Had I gone too far? The question haunted me for weeks afterward, disrupting sleep and concentration. I'd set out to protect my work and ensure accountability, but somewhere in the process it had transformed into something larger, about making absolutely certain Noah could never victimize anyone else, about ensuring the consequences were severe, enough that the lesson would be permanent and undeniable, about creating a public record that would protect others. Was that justice or was it revenge? Where was the line between appropriate accountability and vindictive destruction? I discussed it extensively with my therapist over multiple sessions, Dr. Sarah Winters, a clinical psychologist in her mid-50s, who'd been helping me process everything since the initial discovery of the theft. You protected yourself and protected others who might have become future victims, she said, during one particularly difficult session when I was questioning everything. You didn't fabricate evidence or distort facts. You didn't lie or manipulate. You simply documented the truth comprehensively and thoroughly, then allowed the appropriate institutional authorities to make informed decisions based on that truth. That's not revenge, that's accountability, operating exactly as the system is designed to operate. Then why does it feel so
Terrible. Why do I feel like I destroyed someone? Because you're fundamentally a decent person who genuinely cared about Noah for a decade. Because ending any significant relationship is painful, even when it's absolutely necessary for your well-being. Because standing up for yourself and protecting your work doesn't make the loss hurt any less. You're mourning the friendship you thought you had, the person you thought Noah was. She leaned forward, her expression intent and serious. Alex, let me ask you something important. If you could somehow go back in time and handle this entire situation differently, knowing everything you know now, would you? I thought about it carefully, really examining my choices and their consequences. No, I said, finally. If I hadn't pursued the formal complaint, if I'd stopped after just the initial confrontation and the cease and desist, Noah would have eventually done this to someone else, maybe someone without the resources to fight back. Effectively, maybe someone who doesn't have copyright registrations or access to good legal representation, someone who'd lose everything because I prioritized my own comfort over preventing future harm. Then you have your answer about whether your actions were justified and necessary. The firm took off faster than I'd imagined possible. The Portland Mixed-Use Project was a massive success, winning regional design awards and generating substantial coverage in architectural publications nationwide. Keating's financial backing and industry connections opened doors I couldn't have accessed independently. Within 14 months, we had 8 major projects in various stages of development and a staff of 15 talented people. I hired Jennifer Park, the designer, who told me about her experience with Noah's credit theft. She became my associate creative director, and her work was genuinely exceptional, innovative, thoughtful, technically sophisticated. I made absolutely certain
She received proper credit for every idea, every innovation, every contribution. Her name went on presentations, in client meetings, on award submissions. I never wanted anyone working for Morrison and Associates to feel invisible or exploited the way she had felt with Noah. I also instituted strict, detailed policies about intellectual property protection, about attribution practices, about collaborative processes. Everyone who worked for the firm understood that their work belonged to them, that it would be protected and valued appropriately. We built an entire organizational culture around transparency, respect, and honest recognition of contributions. We had regular staff meetings where people presented their work and received credit publicly. We had clear policies about who owned what, how collaboration was credited, how ideas were attributed. We created an environment where theft was impossible because everything was documented and transparent. It was everything I dreamed of. Building with Noah, but better, cleaner, more honest, more sustainable, more ethical. 2 years after the confrontation in Keating's office, I was in Chicago attending the National Architecture Conference, walking through the massive convention center, heading toward a panel discussion on sustainable commercial design where I was scheduled to speak. I saw her. Noah looked different, thinner, somehow older, despite only 2 years passing. Lines around her eyes that hadn't been there before. She was standing alone in the lobby area, not attending any presentations or visiting any vendor booths, just watching the crowds move past with an expression I couldn't quite read. When our eyes met, I saw her physically flinch, her whole body recoiling slightly. I could have kept walking, could have pretended I hadn't noticed her, could have disappeared into the crowd. But something made me stop, made me change direction and approach, despite every instinct telling me to avoid this confrontation. Noah. Alex. Her voice was subdued, stripped of all the old confidence and energy that had defined her. I didn't realize you'd be here. I probably should have checked the speaker list. I'm speaking on a panel about integrated sustainable systems in commercial design. Right, of course you are. She looked away, unable to maintain eye contact for more than a few seconds. I heard Morrison & Associates is doing extremely well. Portland Project won a bunch of awards. We've been fortunate, working with good clients on meaningful projects. An awkward silence stretched between us, heavy with history and pain and unresolved emotions. I could see her struggling with what to say, how to navigate this unexpected encounter. Finally, Noah took a visible breath, gathering courage. I'm teaching now basic architectural drafting and design principles at a community college in Ohio. Introduction-level courses for students just starting out. Teaching is valuable work, important work for the field. It's not actually practicing architecture. It's not designing buildings or working with clients or seeing your ideas become reality. But yes, it's something. It's what's available to me now, given everything that happened. She paused. Look, I know you probably have absolutely no interest in hearing this, and I don't blame you, but I owe you a genuine apology. What I did to you was inexcusable, completely and totally wrong. I've spent the last 2 years really facing what I did, really understanding the full scope of the betrayal. I studied her face carefully, looking for signs of manipulation or insincerity, the calculated performance I'd seen before. But all I saw was authentic regret and genuine shame. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her posture defeated. Why did you do it? I asked directly. I've never understood why. We were supposed to be partners, supposed to build something together. Why steal from me? Honestly, I was terrified, absolutely terrified that I
wasn't actually good enough on my own, that I'd never succeed based solely on my legitimate merit. You made everything look so effortless, the creativity, the technical execution, the innovative thinking. You'd sit down and brilliant designs would just flow out of you. And I was constantly struggling, constantly feeling inadequate. She shook her head. So I took a shortcut. Then another shortcut. Then it became a pattern, a fundamental way of operating. I told myself it wasn't really stealing since we were partners, that I was just borrowing inspiration, that creative ideas exist in a shared space. You were talented, Noah. Genuinely talented in your own right. You didn't need to steal. I understand that now. It took losing absolutely everything to figure it out, but I understand. The irony is that teaching has actually made me a better designer. Having to break down the fundamentals, having to explain why things work, having to help students develop their own voices, it's
forced me to actually understand my craft instead of just copying what worked for other people. We stood there in the middle of the crowded convention center, surrounded by hundreds of architects and designers, and I felt an unexpected sense of closure washing over me. I forgive you, I said. Noah looked startled, almost shocked like this was the last thing she'd expected to hear. What? I forgive you for what you did, not because it was acceptable, it absolutely wasn't, and not because we can restore our friendship, that's impossible now, that relationship is dead, but because carrying anger around indefinitely is exhausting, and I'm done with it. I'm choosing to let it go and move forward. Her eyes filled with tears that she tried unsuccessfully to blink away. Thank you. That means more than you could possibly know. But Noah, listen to me carefully. I made sure she was looking directly at me. If I ever hear that you've done this to anyone else, if you use your teaching position to take credit for student work or exploit anyone in any way, if you go back to that pattern, I will personally ensure that everyone in the profession knows about it immediately. This is your genuine second chance. Don't waste it. Don't betray the trust of the students who are depending on you. I won't. I promise you I won't. I've learned my lesson. The hard way, the most painful way possible, but I've learned it. I believed her. Not because I trusted her. That trust was destroyed permanently and irrevocably, but because I saw in her eyes that she truly understood what she'd lost. Not just the career opportunities and the professional reputation, but the person she could have become if she'd made different choices, if she'd valued integrity over shortcuts. We parted ways there in the lobby, and I watched her disappear into the crowd of conference attendees. I felt lighter somehow, like I'd been carrying a weight I hadn't fully recognized until it was released. The panel discussion went extremely well. I talked about integrated, sustainable systems, about the responsibility architects have to design for long-term environmental impact and social benefit. I showed examples from the Portland project, discussed the decision-making process, fielded thoughtful questions from the audience. Afterward, a young designer approached me, barely out of graduate school, nervous and eager. She couldn't have been more than 25, wearing a slightly ill-fitting suit that suggested a recent purchase for job interviews. Mr. Morrison, I'm such a huge admirer of your work. The Portland project is absolutely incredible. The way you integrated the passive solar design with the active systems is brilliant. I was wondering, would you ever consider mentoring someone who's just starting out? I'm trying to break into sustainable design, and I'd love to learn from someone who's actually doing innovative work. I looked at her bright, hopeful face and thought about all the ways this industry could exploit people, about how easy it would be for her to encounter someone like Noah had been, someone who'd appropriate her ideas and use her talent for personal advancement, someone who'd take credit for her work and leave her invisible. Send me your portfolio, I said. If your work demonstrates real promise and you're genuinely passionate about sustainable design, we should talk about a position at the firm. We're always looking for talented designers who want to develop their skills in a supportive environment. Her face lit up with pure joy, the kind of unguarded happiness that reminded me why I love this profession. Really? Oh my God, thank you so much. I'll send it today. As she walked away, practically glowing with excitement, I realized something important. Noah's betrayal had broken something fundamental in me, yes. Had shattered my ability to trust easily, had made me more cautious and guarded, but it had also clarified something crucial about the kind of professional I wanted to be, the kind of firm I wanted to build. It had taught me the absolute value of protecting your work, of standing up for yourself, of creating organizational systems and cultures that actively prevent exploitation. It had shown me that sometimes the hardest thing and the right thing are the same thing. I'd built a firm that operated the right way, where credit was given honestly and appropriately, where collaboration meant genuine partnership rather than theft, where young architects could develop their talents without fear of being used or erased or marginalized, where people's work belonged to them and was protected and valued. That was Noah's real legacy, not the destruction of her own career, but the construction of something better and more ethical in its place. Not the end of our friendship, but the beginning of a professional practice built on integrity and respect. That evening, back in my hotel room, I opened my laptop and looked through photos of the Portland project and the other buildings we had in development. The work was genuinely beautiful, innovative, sustainable, thoughtful, entirely mine. My designs, my vision, my name, properly attached to everything. I thought about how easily everything could have been different if I hadn't discovered the theft when I did, if I hadn't had the courage to confront it comprehensively, if I'd allowed Noah's betrayal to proceed unchallenged because confrontation felt uncomfortable or because I valued the friendship more than my own professional integrity. I would have ended up as an invisible footnote in someone else's success story, my creativity systematically harvested for someone else's benefit and advancement. My work would have built Noah's reputation while I remained in the shadows, wondering why I never got the recognition I deserved. Instead, I'd fought back. I documented the truth meticulously and comprehensively. I demanded accountability.
Through appropriate channels, and yes, I destroyed Noah's career in the process. But Noah had destroyed that career personally the moment she decided stealing was easier than creating, that exploiting friendship was acceptable, that my work was hers to take. I just made absolutely certain everyone knew the truth. Was it justice or was it revenge? The question still lingered sometimes late at night when I couldn't sleep. Maybe it was both simultaneously. Maybe those concepts aren't as distinctly different as we like to pretend. Maybe sometimes the just outcome is the one that hurts, that costs something significant, that leaves permanent scars on everyone involved. All I knew with certainty was that I'd protected myself and protected others who might have been victimized. I'd built something real and honest and sustainable. And I'd learned that friendship, no matter how deep or long-standing, doesn't give someone the right to take what's yours. The hardest lesson, the one that
Still hurt to acknowledge, was understanding that sometimes the people closest to you, the ones you trust most completely, are the ones capable of hurting you most profoundly. Not necessarily because they're fundamentally evil people, but because they're weak, because they're scared, because they convince themselves that the rules don't apply to them. Because when they see something they want, something you have that they covet, they convince themselves they deserve it more. They tell themselves it's not really stealing, that your success is somehow unfair or unearned, that taking from you is just leveling an unbalanced playing field. They create elaborate justifications that allow them to sleep at night despite their betrayal. Noah had been my best friend, my chosen family, the person I trusted more than almost anyone in the world. But she'd also been a thief who'd systematically stolen from me and planned to erase me from our shared future. And ultimately, those two truths couldn't coexist in the same reality. I closed my laptop and looked out at the Chicago skyline, a dense forest of buildings designed by architects who'd all faced similar challenges, similar temptations, similar choices at various points in their careers. Some had taken the ethical high road, building careers on genuine merit and honest collaboration. Others had cut corners, stolen ideas, built reputations on other people's talent and creativity. The industry contained both kinds of practitioners, but at least now there was one fewer thief operating in it, and one more firm committed to doing things right, to building a culture where exploitation was impossible because transparency and respect were foundational values that would have to be enough, that would have to be sufficient, and maybe, just maybe, it was exactly enough.